We're talking Mizzou football. Brock Olivo on the line with us, analyst for special teams, part of that Coach Drinkwood staff. Joined the team a year ago, and we talked last summer, and I know you were super excited about being back in Como and being part of Mizzou. And I don't know if we saw that season coming, man. How much fun was that last year for you?
Time of our lives. I feel a special amount of pride being an alumnus, former player, and to see the program thriving like this, and see Coach Drinkwood to be able to get the most out of these guys, and go out there with something to prove, something on our shoulder every week, and the guys respond, and it's really just a great feeling of pride, and I'm just happy, man. I'm all smiles here and ready to ramp it up for year two.
Isn't it crazy? It's the K-State game, which was really the swing game for the year. I think a lot of us, that we sit around, us media dorks, and say, well, if they win this one, if they don't win that one. But that game, if you don't win, it's deflating, and now you got to come to St. Louis. That kick, the thicker kicker comes through. I feel like that just started the ball rolling for you guys. Did you feel that as part of the staff?
Yes, it did, 100%, Martin. That was kind of the catalyst that kind of catapulted us, into sort of that next level. And really what it did is it gave us confidence. We took down a ranked team, a team that is a lot of times mentioned, with sort of the blue bloods, just because of the tradition, the winning tradition they've had over the last, couple decades. And so that was no small feat, to take down Kansas State. I don't think anybody saw that coming, so that gave us a boost of confidence going forward, and we just took care of business week in and week out. But I love our sort of our mantra, Martin, on a weekly basis is go 1-0. That's it, 1-0. Don't think, beyond the next opponent. So that's what we did. Just kept just knocking them down one by one, man, and it worked.
Yeah, it worked, and you end up in a bowl game, winning the bowl game against a true blue blood, Ohio State. It's funny in sports, but especially college sports, when you get that momentum, and Pinkel used to talk about this, it's so hard to get it rolling, but once you do, you can kind of feel it. And right now, the program, kids want to come there. We're talking NIL and transferring. We're talking recruits signing on. I would think as a staff, as a program right now, you can kind of you kind of have to seize the momentum, but it's such a different thing when kids want to be a part of it, as opposed to you having to beg them, hey, we're rebuilding, you want to help us? And it's got to feel like you've got that right now. You're in this moment, you got to seize it.
There's no question, carpe diem, and that shows up not only in the transfer portal, the signings we got from the transfer portal, but the commits we've had over this recruiting period here. We're in ascension right now. The arrow's up, and Mizzou is a name that you're hearing, within national conversations now. And it's no longer, they're just, no. Mizzou is a factor, man, and you better take us seriously, because drinks got us moving in the right direction, and we obviously mean business, and so it's fun, man. It's a really good moment. And you're right, Martin. Just walking within the halls of the building here, you can feel there's a buzz, amongst our players, and they're chomping at the bit to get back and rolling in training camp. So,
now, all of that said, it's got to be a little bit exhausting too, because you're constantly recruiting, and then kids come, but they can leave if they want to leave, and I feel like as a staff, it's every single day. Is so-and-so happy? Okay, if he's not happy, well, okay, is so-and-so coming? Did they sign on? Is it official? Are they leaving? Are they coming? It's tough to even keep track of.
There's no question. Such is the landscape of college football nowadays, right? I mean, you recruit them. You spend a lot of time, invest a lot of money recruiting them, getting them to campus, but then you have to keep recruiting them. The recruiting process does not stop even when you get them in the building. And so it's a challenge, and those opportunities to transfer are going to be there. We know that, and there are always surprises. Each time the portal opens up, and especially as it nears the end of that portal period, a surprise walks in coach's office, and And you just have to take those punches and keep rolling and understand that that's part of college football nowadays. It's volatile. It's a very volatile landscape, and so you just got to navigate that.
As a former running back at Mizzou, how much did you enjoy the Cody Schrader season? I mean, we're talking about a walk-on kid that leads the SEC in rushing, and I know he was as determined as anyone to prove it, and every week went out and did it. But just as somebody who played that position at a high level, what was your appreciation of the season he put together?
Man, I was so proud, and his story. He was the Rocky Balboa of the 2023 season. And just his whole story, though, it's just incredible. It really is, and it just gives you a feeling of pride. Number one, he's a true son. He's an in-state kid who was overlooked, underdog, fighting against all the odds on every level he's ever been on. Told that he couldn't do it, and just completely ignored those naysayers. In fact, I take that back. He probably took that in and used that as his fuel, right? As fuel to say, you know what? No, I'm actually going to show you. I mean, that's how I did it back in the day. And so, if he did that, then I can attest that is a strong, platform to run on. No pun intended, as a running back, man. And so, I was just really proud of him, man. And he's the type of kid who, Martin, you really want to build your program around. Like he's the archetype of the perfect college football player, man. Hardworking dude, humble, willing to do whatever the coaching staff asked him to do. He was playing on special teams as well. Like he'd start. He'd play 10 play series drives, score a touchdown, and then come back on the next drive. And if we didn't score whatever, then he'd line up on the punt team and run down and make a tackle on punt. So just the consummate football player, man. And I know that he's going to have success at the next level. They're going to have a hard time cutting a kid like that, man, no question.
And you played in the league. Don't you think there's a spot for a kid like that? I know he goes undrafted. That just sort of adds to the story. And in some ways, though, you're almost better off if you're not getting drafted. If you're going to be in the 7th round, whatever. You're better off, aren't you? Like where you can kind of select. Your agent helps you pick the right spot.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Based on the roster, the numbers, and all that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, if you let Cody Schrader in your building, you're gonna have a really, really hard time kicking him out, because there is a spot in the NFL for him, Martin. No question. He's got too much value, way too much value on special teams, and as a running back, as a contributor somewhere.
Have you seen much of the kid? Marcus Carroll came from Georgia State. You see some footage on. He looks like a beast.
Yeah. He is, Martin. When he squares his shoulders up and runs downhill, he's going to be a factor. He's not going to be a fun guy to tackle, that's for sure.
Our guest is Brock Olivo, analyst, special teams, part of the Mizzou coaching staff. Looking forward to next year already. And the quarterback's coming back. There's another guy who had his doubters and came off injury. Maybe we didn't know how much that impacted his 2022 season, but he certainly went out and did it at a high level. Another St. Louis kid playing there. And you know that, being from Borgia. I mean, it just sort of, especially around here, it's easier to gravitate to the team, man, like when Macklin had it going and Will Franklin. And just tell me about Brady Cook and his perseverance.
Yeah, you're right, Mark. Like when you're the fans like that. They like they like when players, when they can relate to players, and players are part of the local fabric, right? Like that means something to them. It really does. And Brady's story is kind of similar to Cody, who's probably a little more highly recruited coming out of college, et cetera. But naysayers in the beginning of his career had to fight against some odds, some boos and whatnot, but didn't even phase a kid. I mean, that's just a testament to Brady's fortitude and his inner strength. Man, he's I mean, if you watch him in off-season workouts, we could see it. We are on the staff. We could see it last year too, Martin. The off-season workouts leading up to the season. I mean, he was an alpha man, leading the guys up the stadiums that we run, in our summer conditioning, which is the toughest phase of the year leading up to the season. He was the guy who was setting the tone. So to us behind the scenes, it was no shock that Brady broke through and became the quarterback that he is, and the leader really that he is. That's what he's really, really good at behind the scenes and in the huddle.
You were always a weight room, a workout warrior. Are you in there with the kid? You running the steps? You keeping fit? You're not
Oh,
quite
yeah.
50, but I got a feeling Brock Olivo is working out and running right next to these guys.
Yeah, well, it just happens today is my birthday, my 48th birthday.
Whoa.
So, yeah, and a bunch of us are just down in the weight room getting it in, as a matter of fact. But no, we get out there on the bleachers and we run, and we try to put a good example out there for the guys to follow. But they don't even need us anymore, man. They're on their own. They're taking the reins and doing a great job on their own. No joke aside. So, but yeah, us old school guys, we try to stay in shape, no question.
When we were talking about Cody breaking into the league, you ended up having a nice run with the Detroit Lions. How did you win your way onto that roster? What did you have to do?
Yeah, and fight, scratch and claw every day. You have to make your mark. Back when I was playing, Martin, you could still make a really good impression during practice because there were a lot more padded practice opportunities where we were going live and practice, and so you could make an impression on the coaching staff there. And now these guys have to capitalize on the opportunities in preseason games. Really, that's the only time you're going to go live. So it all kind of comes down to those 3 or 4 preseason games, and so that's where Cody and the boys who the undrafted guys are going to have to make their mark and distinguish themselves from the other rookies trying to make the squad. And even the late round draft choices, I mean, you see guys get beat out all the time by undrafted free agents because when it comes down to we call them the real bullets flying there in the preseason games, guys distinguish themselves. So that'll be fun to watch.
It was a while ago when you played for the Lions. Any allegiance there? That franchise is on the upswing, and they got a lot of St. Louis area kids. We've had their families on and talked about it for a while. The GM was a Rams intern when I was covering the freaking Rams back in the day, and he's now the GM, Brad Holmes. But seems to like the St. Louis kids. I mean, do you have an allegiance to them at all?
Oh, me personally, of
Yeah.
course, I do. Obviously, that was my team that I played for, and that's my heart, Detroit, man. I love that place, love that community. Great sports town, great fans. There's still some people involved in the franchise, still working for the franchise who were there when I was there. So it's a family atmosphere. It really is a Lions organization, and Dan Campbell is a dude that you want to play for. He's the type of coach. I mean, he gets the best out of his players. He's like Coach Drinkwitz, man. He gets guys to run through a wall for him. And really, I think the thing, Martin, that distinguishes coaches from others is, when guys are having success, when teams are having success, it's because their players don't want to disappoint them. They don't want to let them down. And that spawns from love, man. It spawns from, loving your coach and having your coach's back, and because he's got yours. And so it's just it's a cool thing to see Detroit finally being kind of mentioned on the national stage, kind of like Mizzou is right now. So yeah, to tell you what, man, both my teams are doing great, and I'm darn proud. So happy alumnus.
Yeah, and you started with the Niners. It's interesting. That's where you got your first taste, right? And that's where Cody is. There, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
That's where he ends up too.
It is kind of crazy. It is kind of crazy. And there's another Mizzou alumnus who's a 49er alumnus named Eric Wright. That name probably rings a bell from East St. Louis, and had a ton of success here at Mizzou, ton of success at the 49ers, and he was coaching here at Mizzou when I was here as a player, and kind of took me under his wing and connected me out there. I'd go out there in the spring break and work out with the guys out there, Jerry Rice's group. He had a big group of guys out there that were training. He'd run his big hill, and then they'd go to the weight room, and then they'd go to the field and do drills and stuff. And so Eric Wright got me involved in that. And sure enough, when Cody got signed to the 49ers, Eric Wright called me today, man, I need Cody's number. And so now, he's taking Cody under his wing, man, and kind of showing him, the ropes, being there when he meets him out there in the Bay Area. So I just thought that was cool, how the Mizzou alumni step in and they want to help. They want to help the younger generations acclimate to the NFL. And Eric Wright's a prime example of that. So
Did you run the hills? Is that what you said? Were you part of those Jerry work? Didn't Jerry
Oh
Rice
yeah,
run the
oh
crazy
yeah,
hills in
oh yeah,
California? Like,
oh
were
yeah,
they
man.
sand hills? No, they were.
No, no, it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like the red clay. It was like a
Yeah.
really, it was a darker, but solid surface. Yeah, not sand, but it was a trail up this mountain, man. It was grueling. And after that, we go down and do drills on the field, and it was weight room. And there was there was a huge group of guys that he would invite guys. Like I wouldn't invite it. Eric Wright asked him if I could join him, and he just let me because I was in college. But he had a bunch of NFL guys out there and CFL guys because I think he wanted guys out there who would push him. And so he would call guys who were noted for being grinders and hard workers in the off season, and that's what pushed him. So that was a really cool thing to be a part of and to see early on in my career.
Another one, Justin Smith, Mizzou legend, played out there for a while with the Niners too. Had a great run.
Yeah, that's right. Schmitty, yeah.
How about as a coach? You were in the league. You've coached a lot of different places. We've talked before about your time in Italy. Coached at Wash U for a little bit, but in the NFL, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Bears. Who's had the most influence on Brock Olivo, the coach?
Oh, well, I've been really fortunate, Martin, to work for and alongside some really good coaches. Some really good coaches. I mean, I'd be remiss. I mean, Andy Reid, obviously. I mean, he's at the top. Dave Tobe, who's with Andy in Kansas City. I mean, Dave and I go back, to my days here at Mizzou when he was the strength and conditioning coach. I mean, those guys have such a profound effect on you, in college. The strength and conditioning coach is so underrated as far as, one of the success factors. Like our guy here, Ryan Russell, is just extraordinary. So anyways, but I digress. Andy Reid, Dave Tobe, Chris Tabor, who is a well-known special teams coordinator, who's also coach at Mizzou when I was here, and then Vic Fangio. Vic Fangio had a really positive effect on me. He was a defensive coordinator in Chicago when I was there, and we kind of connected on the Italian thing. And, I was fortunate, to get to have dinner every week at this little Italian joint during the season, and get to kind of tap his brain and get to know him a little bit. So it was awesome. It was awesome to be able to work alongside those guys and learn from them. And then, here I owe a huge debt of gratitude to Eric Link, who's our special teams coordinator, who gave me a shot here. Didn't know me from Adam, to come in and be his analyst, and I learned so much from him. So I'm really fortunate to have the opportunity to work with the guys I have. So.
Well, in special teams, some coaches, not a lot maybe, but some will kind of, okay, whatever. And then some make it a big focus and understand the differences it can make. You think about the thicker kick. We talk about the kick.
Mm-hmm.
You beat K-State on a special teams play. The fake punt with Kentucky, special teams play. I mean, it's amazing. And you need your head coach on board with it too. But it's amazing how a whole season, it's just two off the top of my head, where a season can flip based on special teams.
Yep, absolutely. And that's not just, when head coaches, a lot of head coaches will sit up there in front of the team. They'll say, yeah, special teams is a priority. But it's smoke and mirrors, right? It's just worse. Drink means that he calls it team responsibility. And he challenges our starters to, and when I say our starters, I mean our starters in offense and defense. I mean our big name guys like Cody Schraders, the J.C. Carlisle, from last year, Ennis Rakestraw, Chris Abrams-Drain. Those guys all started on at least one unit of special teams for us. And so the coach doesn't only talk about it, he actually lives it and makes it a priority. And so to your point, Martin, we helped win some games last year because of special teams. And myself as a player, when I was here at Mizzou, I started on offense, but I also started on all special teams phases, all the big four phases, and then that was contagious, and that got other guys that could come and want to play on teams as well, and that makes us better as a team. It really does. So I'm all for it and very appreciative of Coach Strickland's approach to special teams.
How will you guys handle the pressure next year? Because you guys are getting mentioned with the big boys, and we're looking at games and saying, okay, they could win that one. Boy, I don't know. Maybe they could go to Alabama. Maybe they can win that game. But there's going to be a lot of hype surrounding it. I know the 1-0 mindset, but as a staff, even, do you have to kind of talk to the kids? Like, we can't get ahead of ourselves because a lot of people there's just so much excitement going into it. Like last year, I think people were hopeful, but they weren't sure. Like this year, it's a different vibe completely. And I'm sure you're aware of that, but how do you guys handle that with the kids?
Yeah, so you talk about expectations and you talk about standards, right? There are always going to be expectations. Expectations come from the outside, right? Everyone has different expectation of you and or your team in this case, and what they think that you should do, and this and that, all the prognosticators. But that's just outside noise. And what we have as a team, what we need to do as coaches is just remind our players we have a standard, period. We have a standard for us right here, and it's only us. And that's something the Prove motto is not going anywhere because we love, Martin, we love here at Mizzou being the underdog. We love that. We thrive on that. That's our world. That's where we live. And that's probably where we'll always live. But we thrive on that. And you know, it was like that when Pinkel was here. It was like that when Coach Smith was here. And so we're perfectly fine with that. But it's standards versus expectations. And we have a standard here in-house, and that's we take care of business one game at a time. And that's it. It's that simple.
Do you sense it's still out there that, you know, even in the league, they're like, well, that was a nice year. Well, Mizzou, we'll see. You know, we're the true blue bloods of the SEC. Like,
Correct.
You totally sense it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's hype and all. Because, yeah, we went 11-2 and beat Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. And on paper, that translates to, you know, some preseason hype and et cetera, et cetera. But, again, all that is a little bit of noise. Those are other people's expectations. What we have in-house here is we're focusing on day one of training camp. So that's it. And then it'll be day two, and then it'll be day three, and eventually it'll be the first opponent. So we keep our guys focused, dialed in on the here and the now, and everything else will take care of itself.
It is kind of nice that Oklahoma, they're part of it now, and A&M has been for a while. But if you're an old school Big 12 guy, you know it some of those rivalries, it's kind of nice to you get Texas in there, and it has at least a little Big 12 DNA sprinkled in there. For sure. Yeah, if you kind of tap into, like you said, you kind of tap into that old Big 12 aura, you know, and it's good. It'll be good to get Oklahoma back here. It really will. It'll kind of. You know, to pull some flashbacks, right? From back in the day. But it is fun. It is fun, and I certainly won't mention that school that touches Mizzou's border to the west. But someday they'll come through here again too, and that'll be fun. Oh, and Norm Stewart will be proud of the reference there, the way you referred to those. I won't mention it either then, since you didn't. Yeah, those folks we don't nominate those people. Okay, we won't even mention that. Let me ask you a couple of St. Louis guys too. So much hype surrounding Luther Burden, and I thought he had like the perfect sort of elevation into year two. First year, we expected him to be, you know, a difference maker right away, which was unfair. And then by the next year, all of a sudden, like, holy smokes. And I think now, legitimately, he's going into a year where the NFL people will start to put him on, you know, the mock drafts will start coming out. How does he handle it, do you think, this year, as far as the Luther Burden hype? Yeah, well, I can tell you, in the year and a half I've been here, I've seen an incredible evolution within Luther. I mean, his maturity level has increased a ton. The way he approaches off-season workouts, like the way he approaches practice on a daily basis. I mean, he's dialed now, and he's ready to roll. He'll be ready. And Luther's a gamer. You know, everyone knows that. Luther, he turns it up on game day, and he's a dude now. He's a dude. He's one of the top receivers in the nation. And when he's got the ball in his hand, he's a game breaker. So we're really fortunate to have Lou here, and it just so happens to be a St. Louis product as well, which helps
a ton with Mizzou's image in St. Louis, and getting kids excited about hey, the possibility of coming to Mizzou and being a Mizzou Tiger. I mean, Lou is one of the guys who's helped put us on the map, no question.
Yeah, and I always say it's great to get a top recruit, a superstar that comes to your program, but then you sort of need them to do well so the people or get great opportunity and do the most with it, because other top prospects are looking like, well, okay, he picked it. How did it work out for him? You know what I mean? Like, if it pays off for that top recruit, then more of them will consider, hey, maybe that's a good spot for me as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, the Luther story has definitely done wonders for us in the St. Louis recruiting game, no question. So it's going to be exciting to see how he even continues to grow even more coming up his junior year here. So again, we're fortunate, man. We're really fortunate to have Lou, and so the sky's the limit with him.
Do you have a favorite? We're talking about these Big 12 opponents. We're going to wind it down here with Brock Olivo because it is his birthday after all. Favorite buildings to go to back in the day? You loved playing there, even if it was a tough environment or just rowdy and loud. Give me a couple back in the day when you would hit the road that you really loved being there.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, probably from from just an aesthetics point of view. I mean, it's tough to beat Boulder, Colorado. What a beautiful place. Classic old school stadium too. That was a beautiful place. It's probably aesthetically the most beautiful place we played at back in the day. But I'll tell you what, if you've never been to a game in Manhattan, Kansas State, I think that thing only seats like 50,000 people, but that was one of the toughest crowds to play in. There's no question. One of the toughest atmospheres on the road, I would say, was K-State. Even tougher than we played at Texas. We played Nebraska in front of whatever it was, 80+ thousand, full to the rim. I mean, K-State was louder, tougher to play in K-State. So go figure. Crazy, right? But it's the truth.
And is there anyone on the SEC you haven't been to? Have you been to Tuscaloosa before?
I have not, actually.
Okay.
I have not. I've not been to Tuscaloosa, and I've not been to, a couple places actually in the SEC, LSU and Ole Miss. But yeah, we'll have our hands full on the road, that's for sure, with the crowd. But that's nothing that we won't be ready for.
And what are the birthday plans? What do you do in Como? You got your number retired. I mean, I hope you don't have to pay for anything down there. What's the big plan?
Well, I started the day with my favorite coffee, which I make in the house actually, with my Italian stovetop mocha, and then some colleagues gave me an awesome butt cake with vanilla icing on it, which was excellent, thanks to some of my colleagues. And then I think tonight I'm gonna maybe go have a nice cigar with some other colleagues. So it'd be a good day, just a good relaxing day, man.
Very nice. And Como itself, man, has changed since you were there. It's exploded, hasn't it? That whole town feels different.
Yeah, it has, definitely, especially the downtown area. It's growing up, obviously, vertically, right, with all the new student housing and whatnot, because of the student population has grown so much. And so, no, it's a good time to be a Tiger, Martin. Sure is.
Well, we appreciate you hopping on. Folks in St. Louis love hearing from you, and part of the Mizzou staff, and there's excitement. We're the home of the Tigers, so anytime we can talk Mizzou, we love it. Brock, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, of course, Martin. Hey, MIZ.
ZOU.